Hello students, let us begin with the DAC papers. As I mentioned in my last lecture, that what are the significant CC papers that are present in your CC 11 and 12. And now let us begin with the DAC 1. As you can see here that the name of the DAC 1 paper is Modern Indian Writing in English Translation. So generally you will find that somehow in this particular paper, you will find there are ample references of the texts that have been translated into English. As the name actually suggests, this is modern Indian writing in English translation. Translation term is there. So significantly, it will not be very easy to identify the texts or to trace the texts from the market. Rather, some of the texts will not be available in internet too. So for this, it will be better for you to search the libraries, okay? Because it will not be very easy for you to buy each and every texts or the books from where the texts have been taken. The first text, as you can see, it is by Premchand, and the name of the text is The Shroud. And as you can see that this particular text was published in New Penguin Book of Classic Urdu Stories, and it was edited by M. Asaduddin. It was published under Penguin series, as you can see. So it was published in 2006. The second text, it was a very significant and very famous text, and the name of the text was The Quilt, and it was written by Ismat Chugtai. Okay, you see that Lifting the Veil, selected writings of Ismat Chugtai. It was also translated by M. Asaduddin, and it was published in from Penguin in 2009. So what you can find here that either you have to buy these books, okay, for this one single text, or rather, if you think academically, ultimately you will find a treasure house there. Why? Because there are not only the quilt, but also the other texts that were written by Ismat Chugtai, and these were very significant. You know, Sadatos and Manto and Ismat Chugtai, these two names have been pronounced at a single tune. So that's why these are very important texts. The next text, as you can see here, it is Gurdayal Singh, and the name of the text was A Season of No Return, right? And it was published under Early Tones and translated by Rana Nair. It was published from Fiction House. It was published in the year 2002. The next text was Fakir Mohan Senapati's Rebati. Okay, it was an Oriya text, and ultimately you will find here it was published under the book Oriya Stories, edited by Vidya Das, translated by Kishori Charan Das. It was published in Shrishti 2000. Okay, the next text was G.M. Muktibodh's The Void, translated by Vinay Darwadkar, and it was the first text. And the second one, So Very Far, translated by Vishu Khare and Adil Jisawala. And these were published under Oxford Anthology of Modern Indian Poetry. And this was published from OUP, that is Oxford University Press, in the year 2000. There are more two texts there. The first one is Amrita Pritam's poem. It is I Say Unto Waris Shah, and it was translated by N.S. Tasneem. It was published under Modern Indian Literature and Anthology Plays and Prose, and it was volume 3, edited by K.M. George, and it was published from Sahitya Academy in 1992. The next one, it is Thangjam Ibopisak Singh, okay, Dali Hussein, or Odor of Dream, Colors of Wind, and The Land of the Half Humans. These were translated by Robin S. Gangam, as probably you have heard the name, because two poems were in your syllabus by Gangam. And it was published under the group, the Anthology of Contemporary Poetry from the Northeast. So you can find these two poems were in your syllabus. Among the non-detailed texts, you have three more texts here. The first one is Red Oleanders, Rokto Korobi by Rabindranath Tagore. Okay, the second one is Dharamveer Bharati, Andha Yug. It was published there, translated Alok Valla from OUP. and the third one is G. Kallan Rao's Untouchable Spring. It was translated by Allah the Uma and M. Sridhar, and it was also published from Orient Black Swan. So these are the three texts, as I mentioned earlier, that probably you will get four questions being set from three texts, and you have to answer any two. Okay. For Red Oleanders, you will find that there are Rupa publications and also the other sections, other texts are available. And for the poems and proses, it will be better for you if you try to identify, if you try to gather the texts from internet or maybe from the libraries. That will be helpful for you. So this is significantly DSC 1. Under DSC 2, you will find these texts are very available. As you can see, the texts, because it is the post-World War II British literature, and you will find here the two poems by Philip Larkin, that is Wits and Weddings and Church Going, both are famous poems. Two poems by Ted Hughes, and the name of the poems are Hawk Roosting and Crow's Fall. Again, two famous poems are there. The two poems by Seamus Heaney, it was Digging and Casualty, and two poems by Carol and Diffie. Okay, and so there are eight poems under the detailed texts, that is 2 and 5 marks. These are significantly present in the book that I have mentioned earlier, that is the Anglo-Anglican poems by Thomas. You will find them to be present here. Under the non-detailed text, that is of 10 marks, you will find three texts have been mentioned here. The first text is by Animal Farm by George Orwell. The second one is Look Back in Anger by John Osborne. The third one is England, England by Julian Barnes. Now, what happens, that for Animal Farm, it's a novel by George Orwell. You will find that the texts are available, okay, in the books, in the houses or books houses. For Look Back in Anger, for the base text is probably from Worldview, and at the same time the Orient Black Swan or Orient Black Swan, these books are available there. For England, England, this particular text is not available here, you see, and probably you will buy England, England from Amazon or any other online book resources. Okay, so significantly we'll find that the post World War II, these texts are very significant, very famous, and probably this will be helpful for you to complete. Okay, so now let us move towards the last one, that is the CC DS3. As you can find here, it is not CC, actually it is the DSC3, and this particular group is named as literary criticism. Okay, so there are three major texts that are considered to be the detailed texts. Okay, as you can see here, it is 2 and 5 marks. The first one is William Wordsworth's Preface to Lyrical Ballads. Okay, the best book that I have seen, it was the English critical texts by D.J. Enright and Chiquera, Ernest de Chiquera. This particular book here, you can find not only Preface to Lyrical Ballads, but also Tradition and Individual Talent, and also the other significant texts that are considered another group of the literary criticism. Okay, so it was published another group of Oxford University Press edition. So there you can get Preface to Lyrical Ballads, that was published in 1802. It was the second, the third edition actually, because in the 1800 there is, Lyrical Ballads was published in 1798. In 1800 there was Wordsworth's Preface to Lyrical Ballads, and in 1802 you will find it was to some extent changed a bit. So that's why it is William Wordsworth's Preface to Lyrical Ballads, and try to gather this particular book either by Ernest de Chiquera and Enright, D.J. Enright's English critical texts, or maybe you will find there are ample references where dedicated book on William Wordsworth's Preface to Lyrical Ballads, it is also possible to be present. You see that Macmillan edition is also available there. Virginia Woolf's Modern Fiction, it is another kind of a long essay that you have to read for the detailed texts, and T.S. Eliot's Tradition and Individual Talent, you see. Okay, T.S. Eliot's Tradition and Individual Talent, this particular criticism or critical work or essay was published under the group of the Sacred Woods. Okay, if you can gather the book, you can take the book for T.S. Eliot. You will find not only Tradition and Individual Talent, but other significant essays that are written by Eliot. Okay, like Hamlet and His Problem, and the Elizabethan playwrights and so. So the significant literary texts are available there also. Under the non-detailed text section, as you can see, say these three texts, that is preface to lyrical ballads, modern fiction, and tradition. Ultimately, you have to go through detail because the 2 marks question will certainly come, right? So far as non-detailed texts are concerned, you will find S.T. Coleridge's Biographia Literaria, and the chapters have been mentioned is chapter 13 and 14. There is I.A. Richards's Principles of Literary Criticism, chapter 1, 2, and 34. It was published from London, 1924. And there is Cleon Brooks, a hearsay paraphrase, okay, and the language of paradox. So, so far as I.A. Richardson and Cleon Brooks are concerned, you can find these are the formalists, the new critics actually, and you can find some new critical temperament and practical criticism, the orientations of practical criticism. All these things have been taken into consideration here, and you can gather some informations from the seminal works, seminal books on literary theories and literary criticism. For example, you can gather some informations about them from David Lodge's criticism book, and ultimately you can gather some informations from you know, some reading materials, from gesture materials on principles of literary criticism. But ultimately, whenever I will think of Biographia Literaria and principles of literary criticism, or hearsay paraphrase, or language of paradox, that is Coleridge, Richards, and Brooks, it is better for you to read the text carefully, obviously, though these are not in your detailed texts under this particular group. But I will obviously suggest that please go through the text carefully, just because if you go through the actual writing of by Coleridge or Richards or Brooks, then it will provide you the confidence. Such confidence you will lack certainly if you go through the summary portions of these texts. Okay, and what happens, you know, that whenever you will read, or we read actually the criticism part, and you know, what happens that when we read any book that actually deals with the criticism, you will miss the actual text of the writing. That means somehow we read anybody's reading of Coleridge's Biographia Literaria, so that is not actually needed. Okay, we don't actually need anybody's orientation or anybody's answer to Coleridge, or anybody's reading of Coleridge, or anyone's reading of Cleon Brooks. Rather, it will be better for you to read the text, identify the text, and feel the basic essence of the text, and then write your answers. Okay, so that is for today. That is, there you can get the 2 CC papers in my previous lecture, and now you will get the DAC papers, and among these DAC papers you have to choose any 2. Okay, significantly what happens, you know, it's a master tips actually. So far as literary criticism is concerned, I am not dissuading you, but ultimately I should say here that for literary criticism, it is easily available for you, true, but significantly whenever you will deal with criticism, it is not a bit scoring, as you can see. Okay, it's master tips, as I have mentioned, that it is not a bit scoring, rather a bit complex. And that's why you have to, now this is obviously needed for your academic career, true, in your future, but ultimately whenever you have to write on literary criticism, you need to study a bit longer, as you can see, because you have to internalize what Wordsworth actually told, or what Wordsworth actually mentioned there, what Woolf actually mentions there, or maybe T.S. Eliot. But ultimately, these are very important, very significant, obviously. Whereas, if you think about DSC 1, the texts are not so much available, as you can see. But at the same time, what I have to say here, that probably the texts are a bit easier. Okay, it is not available truly very easily, but the texts are easier. So up to this, stay connected, stay attached. I will try to read out the texts and try to interpret the texts as I can. So today up to this then, thank you.